how about um, how about the theater that was in the original building? Were you ever in there?
Yes, I was, and I can remember the chairs were in good shape. I can remember sitting in the chairs. They were pretty comfortable. They were like the movie theater chairs. And I remember it, but I don't remember it as well as I do the basements. And of course, obviously, there's nothing going on there at the time, but I do remember it. And it was, I remember it was pretty good sized. You could have quite a show go on there if you did it right. And I'm thinking seating for 50 maybe, yeah.
And was it tiered or was it a flat floor?
It was like a tiered.
Okay.
Yeah, the lower seat, the seats in front were lower, and then it went up in the back. Yeah.
Okay. And how about a gymnasium in the old building? You talked about gymnasium.
Yeah, there was a full basketball court. That would be over on the York Street side, and I'm thinking there were two of them. I think there was two. I think there was a matching one over on the other side, on the Main Street side.
Now these were in the wings or in the original building?
They were in the wings.
Okay.
They were part of the wings. They were constructed as part of the wings.
Okay.
And they also had, actually, like adjoining them, there were these courtyards, these inner courtyards that I think they used them for gardens.
Okay.
You know,
And you told me about a collection of artifacts that were in, was it in Brigham Hall?
no, that would have been Dunham Hall.
Dunham Hall.
Right.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, the top two floors of Dunham Hall, the building was abandoned. It had been used as a kitchen at one point, and I believe the last kitchen work was probably 82 or 83. They moved all the cooking operations out of there and moved it over to Brigham Building. What they did is they had one of the nurse administrator's husbands. He was a treatment assistant there. He retired, and they hired him, and all I can remember is Lloyd. It's the name of the guy that was doing this.
Lyle?
Lyle, I'm sorry, Lyle. Yeah. Now, Lyle, I never met him. He came in, I was working midnights all the time, so he would come in the days and he would do this work. Did a wonderful job cataloging everything and researching everything. He was just everything treated like gold. I mean, you could just tell the way he arranged stuff. But there was an old one of those old high wheel bicycles there. There was the Utica crib, the Utica restraint chair. There was different artifacts that they had pulled from the labs and whatnot, and put in that he set up and identified and tagged. And I used to spend a lot of time up there. Different books and stuff. A lot of the books that they had, psychiatric books and whatnot, were kind of fascinating because some of them went back 100 years. You know, you're reading the differences in diagnosis and treatments and stuff like that. It's pretty profound. You know, so.
And there was a display board of items that had been taken out of patients, wasn't there?
Correct, yes. That came out of the lab. When the lab closed, the last autopsy was done, I believe, in '82. It was Dr. Lee. But they had a morgue there, and that was one of our jobs was actually to take the patients remove them from the wards and put them in the morgue. And but the lab had a lot of tuberculosis lungs and stuff, and also apparently tuberculosis gets on other organs too. But they had removed these, and they actually cut sections where you could see the damage that was done. And the suicides were what they did sometimes is they swallowed things, okay, and during the autopsy when they could, oh, look at this, and they would mount, and other patients did this as an arts and crafts thing. And this was this is grisly. But they said, here, take all these bed springs and make and they put a thing down. This taken out. They didn't name the patient. They said removed from patient on such and such. That somebody like swallowed a sheet and choked on it. I mean, this kind of stuff. And but they had this stuff that was recovered at autopsy, and they would put this on these boards. And this is what you saw. That was in the lab, and you'd walk and you see this, and you go, oh, how delightful, And it's things that you wouldn't even consider doing today was taken pretty much, I guess, as, well, there it is, it's science, you know. And we went through the picric acid scourge. I don't know if you remember that, where they had picric acid in the schools. And what it is, apparently when it dries on the lids, if you do this, it explodes. It's a mild explosive. And what they found is like the kids were getting in, unscrewing the jars, and then boom, they go off, they're getting burns. I mean, nobody's getting killed, but still, the injuries. But we had the picric acid, we had a ton of it that they had moved out of the lab and hidden under with the nuclear radiation candy, you know. And they knew what it was, and and the trouble is you couldn't dump it. There were special things you had to go through, so we just said, well, we'll just sit on it until we figure out what we're going to do with it. And then when that came to the forefront, all of a sudden that was an emergency, and they disposed of all the picric acid, you know. But
Somehow.
yeah, yes, they did. They didn't tell me what they did with it, and I'm glad.
How about the director's residence when you were there, that building that's on the corner of
Yeah,
York and
that was a three-story, just a beautiful, beautifully constructed. You walked in and they had the hand-painted glass with the top hat on it. I mean, everything was just very stylish and great Gatsby stuff. This is what what you're reminded of. And what they did was they used that as outpatient treatment toward the end. Okay, when I was there, and they had the doctors coming in, they would treat the patients there during the day, and they had, I mean, some magnificent furnishings, and you'd walk in, it was very a home environment, very welcoming, and our job there was essentially just make sure to maintain security, because they were valuable. I mean, some of those couches were worth a fortune. And,
what about the greenhouses? When did those close, and what do you remember about the greenhouses?
the greenhouses closed when I was there. They had they turned into the community gardens. At one time, they had the patients were doing that. That was considered good work. Patients would come down, they grow flowers and vegetables and stuff like that. This had come down to almost hobby farming, from where it was a thing where we're growing our own stuff. They stopped that altogether. So that was even before I started working there. Wages became, in other words, you can't have these people doing it without paying them a wage and contributing to Social Security, and that ended it. That put the end of it. They said, we're not going to do that. We're not going to get involved in running separate payrolls for patients and all that goes with that, insurances and all the rest of it. So they said, no, we just won't do it anymore. It won't be part of therapy. I think by '86 it was done. It was over with. They just locked the greenhouse, and that was the end of it. What they did do is they allowed the neighbors to come down and use the tillable land, though. And they said, you don't come in, stake out your, they wouldn't want anybody to take too much, but, if you had a plot of land, want to grow tomatoes, come in and help yourself. And we did, a lot of neighbors that come down, they would do that. The relationship between the hospital and the neighborhood was always very strong. We had a fire brigade of people that would actually call us when our fire alarm went off. Do you need help from the brigade? I said, no, thanks for calling, and we have it under control, because we had the firehouse was just across the street. And we had some minimal turnout gear to respond with, and then notify if we needed more help. But the fire brigade people would still, they would still call us. And a lot of the neighbors would come by, and they would use the Maxwell House, which was the coffee shop there, and there was a credit union there, and so there was a lot of cross relationship between the neighbors and our patients, and the vast majority of them were fine. I mean, they were maybe a little bit of confusion and whatnot, but most of them were amusing to talk to sometimes, and they get you laughing, and they were just like anybody else. I mean, you get tickle your funny bone, and most of our patients were good patients.
Were you there when the walls and fences came down?
Yes, I was. When I first started there, we had that 20-foot cyclone fence that every kid in West Utica could get over in 2 seconds, and knew where all the holes were. They throw eggs at us. We go by in the patrol car and gets pelted with eggs. We try to catch them. I never caught one. But I didn't have to lack of trying. I could run pretty good, but they just knew. They knew every little crack and cranny. But yeah, that was fences came down, and then the front iron that came down.
The wrought iron.
The wrought iron fence in the front.
Right
Yeah,
through.
that was the yeah. Then That was supposed to have been sold to some guy that came up with a, he parked out of the front lawn, was sleeping out of the car, and he had somebody in Rhode Island that was going to buy this thing, and we're just looking at each other, and says, Gary's not going to get a dime out of this guy, he's going to get that fence, it's going to be gone, and that's going to be the end of it, and I think that's how it ended up, so. But he had somebody come up in a bunch of flatbed tractor trailers, and they hauled it out of there.
Wow.
But what was happening is people in these gated estates and whatnot were buying this stuff. They're putting it on their property. That's what happened to it, And he was supposed to, the guy that was taking this all apart, he was supposed to, give us some money. I don't think he ever did.
That was a substantial fence, wasn't it?
Oh, it was very substantial. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the sections.
10 or 12 feet tall or something?
No, I don't think it was that tall. It was probably, I don't think it was all of 7 or 8 feet. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The reliability concerns, too, is where I think that the state wanted it gone because the kids were climbing on it. It was one of those old pattern spike fences. And all next thing you got an impaled kid on the fence, and
Right.
they were over it all the time. So I think they were glad to see it gone, even though they ended up giving it away. I mean, they were happy to see it out of there.
Right.